Basketball fans can dust off their jerseys over the weekend. The NBA owners and players reached a tentative bargaining agreement ending a 149-day lockout. If that deal's approved, the NBA will tip off a 66-game regular season with a triple header on Christmas Day. The news sent shares of Madison Square Garden, home to the New York Knicks, soaring in early trading today. Miller Tabak analyst David Joyce upgraded his rating on MSG from neutral to buy, citing the apparent end of that labor dispute. Here to help us break down the deal is Charles Grantham, a former executive director of the NBA Players Association. He's been helping us analyze the labor negotiation throughout the lockout, and he joins us here in studio. And we have to mention, you said there was going to be a season.
Yes, I did.
Why were you confident?
Well, I knew that at some point the fairness of the game, in other words, the game had to prosper here. And so the question was, at some point, both sides would realize that their in respective positions were not as big as the sex of the game.
Okay, who won and who lost?
Well, in simple terms, the owners won because they have a significant amount of money to return to their side of the equation. Yeah. And very simply put, the players do lost significant income. On the other hand, in the long run, this may prove to be best for both sides because it does give you approximately, or could be as much as 10 years labor stability. It increases.
They can opt out at 6.
They can opt out at 6, but it also will give the franchises that are small franchises or those who had negative cash flow a good chance of making money and also increase the value of those franchises.
And that increase is going to be, at least according to what I've read about the agreement, all of the franchises are going to get about an extra $10 million.
Exactly.
Correct?
So that would turn probably the 16 or 17 that were in red ink into making a profit or certainly breaking even.
Does this give the league and the teams the parity that some of the owners sought? Because they made a parallel between the NBA and the NFL. Small market team, hey, the Green Bay Packers, they're the champs.
Well, that's a sort of a tricky issue. It's very hard to legislate parity, and although football has it, but you must remember they have a very limited number of guaranteed contracts, so it allows them to kind of clean the slate every year. The NBA will not afford that opportunity, although it will free some of those higher market teams or bigger market teams from going out and dominating the free agency market.
Could this lockout have been avoided?
Well, I think it could have. I think that the winds of change were there. We didn't really see them. And quite frankly, that as long as you had an escrow system, which you do have in professional basketball, that you had a hard cap anyway. Yeah. So it's unfortunate that the drama had to take place and we lost 16 games. But you may have a better season, actually.
We have about 30 seconds left. How hard is it going to be for the league and the players to get the fans back? Because from some of the video I've seen, they're not too thrilled about this.
Well, the reality is that basketball doesn't really kick in on a pro level until January or February anyway. The fact that you kick off on Christmas Day was another milestone that they were looking at very clearly, and that I think ultimately the people will be back because you'll see very good basketball this year.
And one of those triple header games is going to be a rematch of the finals, the Mavericks and the Miami Heat.
That's right.
Charles Grantham joining us to talk about the NBA, what appears to be labor peace. They still have to vote on it, but it appears it's headed in the right direction.
I think both parties will agree.
Mr. Grantham, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.